Hyggelig. Hyggelig å møtes.
Ilikamoto. Uh, we actually never have uh really met.
We did meet one time. You didn't remember the one with Ecolinguist. We did the video about
Oh my
guessing
goodness.
it.
That's
Yeah.
so long ago. I'm I honestly did not remember that was you. I remember making that video, right? And then like I said, I felt like I sort of found you on Instagram later and I didn't remember that was the same person. That's funny. Um, well, we both have recently taken big graduations in life. Um, I also have uh, big uh, recent news. I am engaged, so that's cool. Uh,
Congrats.
thank you. Um, so good vibes all around here. Um, but what I wanted to invite you here to talk about, and we usually these have been very informal, kind of unstructured conversations, right? And with some of my Patreon supporters present here live, was to talk about your live teaching of Norwegian online, right? Because I I also am a online language teacher, less experienced than you, and I'm working coming at it from, I'm teaching an ancient language, but I wanted to know what, like how, first of all, like what is your background with this? What started you teaching online? What's different about how you teach online? What moves you here? What motivates you and animates your online teaching project?
So I have so I have two different ways of teaching. The first one is well, my background is that I have been teaching one-on-one on Italki and Preply, which are teaching platforms. I actually started with English. Uh, it was also a bit embarrassing because I messed up the English. It's not my, my own person. Like I'm not comfortable with teaching English, so I started to teach Norwegian with people, like really informal. And apparently there was interest in learning this language, and then I actually learned by doing to teach, and I really find it fun. And many of my students are really happy with how I teach. I'm very digital in my teaching um, way of teaching, so I have my own way of having my own the what I have now is I have my own teaching platform where I have courses that are self-paced. So you learn whenever you want. It's a lot of hours I have prepared to make these courses. So I have recorded about 60 hours uh, it's been in total. And they are all based on my previous teaching. So like teaching one-on-one, how do I teach from basics? You need to learn the basic concepts, how you set up the pronouns, how you make the grammar, how you start to have a conversation. And like for me, I don't have an academic background like you do. I have a bachelor's in chemistry. It is very unrelated. But I like to think scientifically in the language, and I believe Norwegian language is something anyone from Norway can teach as long as you have the knowledge and skill, the competence to do it. You don't necessarily need uh, education through academia to teach because most of my students are private students. They are not from a company. They are not from an institution. They're all like people from the US, from Poland, from Iran, from everywhere, and they all have the same problem. They really need to just learn the basics of Norwegian and take it up to B1 and B2 level, and even C1 level in Norwegian. You're muted.
I'm sorry. What are the platforms that you mentioned that you use?
So right now I have my own platform to teach, my own websites. Do you mean that, or do you mean the previous?
Yeah, like when students so say I've signed up for your class, like where am I going? Where am I getting that instruction?
Yes, so it is all online. So everything is pre-recorded. You enter and then you are in the classroom. And I have written down some notes how it is. It is 10 minutes long videos. It is you go through a platform where you can comment, and you can also um, download the PDFs. You can do everything, and then you also do exercises in the platform. And like for A1 level, it is about 10 hours of content. And as long as you do the work and you watch the videos and do the exercises and also interact in the private community that I have with other students, it's already in all the courses is about 2,000 students in so many students. And if I actually had everyone uh, in private or live, it would be a little bit tricky to have that many students. I would probably need like a second teacher.
Or a tenth? Yeah, that's a lot. I didn't realize that you were working with that many people. That's amazing. And they can interact with each other too, of course.
Yes, of course. They are all now in there is a Telegram group, and right now it is about 500 or 600 students there in the beginner group. They are writing to each other, like saying, introducing each other, writing about what they're doing today. So you're never alone, even though it's online. And sometimes we meet everyone just to have a chat and to, you know, yeah, so that's how it works.
That's great. Do you give them like assignments in the Telegram group? Like you need to talk about this or talk about that, or do you just let it just naturally flow?
It goes pretty naturally through in this course. It is you have this forever, so it doesn't you never lose access to the courses. So therefore, it's a great resource, especially if you're, for example, in USA. We have a different time zone, and they can't attend. You're busy, and it solves that problem.
Yeah, of course. I agree with that philosophy. I do the same thing myself with the old Norse class. When you sign up, there's not like the curtain doesn't close or you don't have access to the materials anymore. I figure that you're paying for the skill, not for a time slot. Uh, so it's interesting that we kind of independently came to that idea. Um, so one of the things I think that you do really, really well, and of course, most of what I've seen is like the shorts that you share on Instagram or your posts that you share there. And what I see there is just a really fantastic ability to anticipate and teach the things that are challenging for people whose like mother tongue systems are different, right? Like you anticipate the exact things that I think are actually often very hard for English speakers in learning Norwegian, both idiomatic things and grammatical things. So is that coming from just enough experience of teaching that you've seen, like so many of your students trip over this one thing, or do you have like some sixth sense for what's difficult about your own language?
So for me, I am a little bit of a language nerd, I would say. I really like to explore languages. So I learned Japanese, Spanish. It's a bit rusty. I wouldn't say I can have a conversation with them. and also I'm learning a little bit of German, and I learn a little bit of different languages. When I see this, I see some similarities in Norwegian, which are very interesting for me. And I also have previous knowledge from teaching. I really like to listen to people. So when I listen to their problems, like for example, they have difficulties to pronounce this specific vowel, like
Mm.
this is something so many people struggle with that I know they need to learn about this. So I make these shorts that are a little bit funny, like they're theatrical.
Yeah.
I'm very into theater. And then I try to make a sketch kind of. So people can, have a laugh and comment below and kind of find some interest in this language because learning a language, it's a little bit hard. And I really hate standard, just A to B, how to say this. I want to spice it up and
Yeah.
to hit some nerves on people that watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those little dramas that you recreate are a lot of fun and often make it a very memorable point. Uh, but yeah, there are certain things like you said, the vowel sounds. Another one that I noticed because I used to teach Norwegian at UCLA,
Yeah, you said
so
you wrote. I
believe
noticed.
that or not, but I actually I remember some of these things being big challenges for people, like interessant versus interessert is something that for whatever
Yeah,
reason English speakers tend to struggle with. Um, and then of course you're great at anticipating idioms that people might want to know that are very different from one language to another, right? And I think that so often traditional language instruction doesn't account for that very well, because traditional language instruction is, here's the word for table, here's the word for hello, and you wind up kind of talking yourself in circles, whereas you really kind of keep the colorful, vibrant, like, this is the weird way we say this thing, but it's so much more memorable when you hear about it that way.
yeah, exactly. And I'm really into Viking, the Norse side of Norwegian. Lately, I found really real interest in keeping the Norwegian language. I'm not really fond of the way of including English into Norwegian, because this is happening in so many languages now, that I want to kind of. I don't want like the modern Norwegian to take over. I want to tell people this Norwegian language also has nynorsk, like bokmål, nynorsk. You write in nynorsk, you have very good skills in that. I see when you write
Like,
the email, very impressive. And I know this is the most similar writing system to Norse, Old Norse, um, compared to bokmål, which is basically Danish. So therefore, I really want to keep that language up. I don't like when people like, for example, h and sh,
mhm.
kjempebra, like kylling or kylling. And then this is due to the influence from different languages or just the change in the kids are lazy. Um, but of course, you can't really stop this language change. But I just like to spread the language around to the world, and see how it goes. And people are very interested for some reason into Norwegian language. It's very fun to see. Also, Americans.
Well, yeah.
Since so many Americans that really like Norwegian.
Do you find that it's mostly among Americans, people who are interested in their heritage, people who have a Norwegian family background, or do you get uh, people with a lot more motivations than that?
It is mostly family heritage, people that have family in Norway somewhere. Of course, we have a lot of Norwegians emigrated to the US. I don't know, 800,000 people from 1800s, if I'm not wrong. Um, Mostly in Minnesota. Is it also like Sons of Norway? Is that in Minneapolis or it is somewhere else?
I don't know
Uh,
where they're based, but they have multiple chapters even in Colorado, and Colorado is not a state where there was a ton of Scandinavian immigration.
Yeah.
Like I've talked to Sons of Norway chapters in Boulder and Denver and Fort Collins. They're actually widespread, and they were really big in Wisconsin, where where I got my PhD. Um, yeah, I found that most of the people who would take Norwegian with me, their motivation was family origin based. Not everybody, but that was a really big part of it. I always felt a little bit different in terms of American learners of Scandinavian because I have zero family origin in Scandinavian, um, and didn't grow up in a community where there was very much of that. But it's obviously a big deal to a lot of people. And then I find, I don't know what you find, there's also the people who just have, like, they've taken a trip to Norway and have just fallen in love with it. Um, I don't know if you've had students like that who just like, like I don't know, just took a trip that changed my life.
Yeah. I sometimes I can't really believe it. Like it's something in the human brain that just clicks when they come to Norway. So it's very fun to see. I'm very happy they like have different motivations. It always warms my heart when people want to like keep up the language in from their heritage or from their deeper inner motivation. So that's very nice.
And one thing that I was curious about too, and I'll open this up if Patreon supporters have questions as well. But I was wondering, how do you deal with some of that variation in Norwegian? I mean, for instance, to start with, I assume that you're mostly working with pretty like standard Østnorsk and writing bokmål. But like, say someone comes in having spent some time in Bergen, where the accent is quite different, or has an interest in, maybe a rural region of the West Fjords where they had family origins or something like that. How do you have a way of dealing with and incorporating some of that variation in spoken and written Norwegian?
Oh, so in all my videos, it's all in the standardized language. Do you mean like the dialects?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, we have many dialects. For me, I do a uh, couple way of dealing, couple ways of dealing with this is that I have some videos where I just basically have about my own dialect in Tromsø.
Mm.
Um, it is not hard, I would say. It's not difficult. When it comes to harder dialects around Norway, it is hard for me to really grasp what they really are saying. I'm not. It's actually a little bit offensive to try their dialects, and
Oh, sure, sure.
when I do it in the videos, then people Norwegians take offense by this. Of course, my followers are not really Norwegians, just a couple haters. But I sometimes I do it. I'm not really good at the dialects, to be honest.
You're
Um,
not going to sit here and imitate Setesdalsk to us. Uh,
yeah, Setesdal, like Valle, speak to a farmer. That is a really big challenge to deal with. But I don't really teach the dialects except for my own,
hmm.
which is the northern part of Norway.
Well, but
Uh,
I think that's just introducing someone to like one of those, I think has a lot of value because it reminds you that uh, this is there's kind of a common grammatical and vocabulary skeleton that all these varieties are built on, but that could be expressed in different ways. And I think that it's really good to have people know that that kind of variation is out there and to be kind of ready for it, even if you can't teach what all the varieties are. Uh, just because you're not as intimidated by it, if you're kind of ready to like, oh, I wonder, what is uh, what did he mean when he said, you know, uh, egg, right? It's like, oh, okay. Well, he's saying that everywhere that I learned to say yai, right? Like, I think people can kind of be, if they're ready to make those substitutions, I think even if they don't know what all the substitutions are, that's probably good for them.
yes, and when I look at my own dialect, we have similar patterns, like the plural form of you say dokker,
Mhm.
and then they have dykk when you have nynorsk. But people in nynorsk areas, they have many ways of saying you guys
Yeah.
for some weird reason. Quite funny. And we decided to have like 50 words for one thing,
Yep.
like this one dish called kumle or raspeball. Um, it is kind of like potato with flour, like a ball. I don't know if you see dumplings.
Hmm.
We have 20 ways of saying it in Norway based on different regions.
Sure.
So you just see that it's specific things. Kind of uninteresting things have to be changed around. One thing that is quite funny, if you guys swearing. So if you go further north in Norway, we have more swearing based on our genitals. When you go further down in Norway, you go swearing based on religion, uh, like for example, Lord or
Hmm.
hell.
Hmm.
So that is a little bit interesting.
That's a super valid linguistic observation, right? Because different cultures do tend to focus on different zones of cussing, right? Or to sort of rank cussing worse. So yeah, I guess in southern Norway, the old religious cussing, the hell, devil stuff, is the strongest cussing. But then in like further north Norway or in English, the the sexual or body part cussing tends to be the worst. Uh, yeah, and then there are cultures where like the defecation type cussing tends to be the worst. So yeah, it's funny how that varies from place to place. That the question of the plural, you guys or y'all, a lot of that is from whether the dialect uses the old plural or the old dual from Old Norse,
hmm.
because Dockers from the old dual. So are you still based in Tromsø? Is that where you're at?
Now I'm in Bergen. Um, yeah, it's quite similar. The tone of the language, the dialect tone is the same, but the dialect is, of course, different. It's based very influenced by German, uh, Bergen.
Yeah, that the Skada air and the complete lack. Well, actually, this thing is pretty interesting about Bergen is the complete lack of the feminine, right?
Yes, exactly. They don't know if it's a feminine word, which surprised me when I came here. Like for me, that's just, it's my own way. I mean, I can just look at a word and know it's feminine. But they just have to look up in the dictionary. It's quite funny when they're like teaching. So to a student, oh, you want to learn Oslo dialect? Okay. Sorry, I don't know the feminine word for, I don't know, a hat. So, yeah, or the ending. So,
Yeah,
but
that's a funny thing about Bergen. Uh, like you wouldn't necessarily expect it, but like that is the place where that just vanished. Uh, in the spoken language.
yeah.
Uh, I was going to say, if anyone from Patreon wants to throw in a question or remark, you are welcome to. I think you have a student here, right? Uh,
Yeah, Matt, isn't Matt Barkley? Is that
yeah, he enrolled. I saw. That's great. Uh,
welcome? Welcome. I am. It's great. Very happy to have you on board.
so could you also like just say, I hope we're reaching some prospective students of yours. Could you like explain a little bit like what to expect from, you know, the first time they sign up, and then what where you think they would be, say, a month down the line?
Okay. So once you sign up, there's some. Yeah. Once you sign up, then you start the course, and then you have you basically we start up like housekeeping. You get flashcards, you get access to the community. Then afterwards, we set up a plan. Then we set, for example, you study one video on Wednesday and Thursday you're busy, so then you have another maybe on Saturday or whatever. Then you see like one video is 10 minutes, for example, or 15. Then you complete that. You also write down notes. You do repetitions. You also do the exercises, and then you continue to the next video. And then I like 1 month is not enough to reach a level, of course. So it's all about keeping up the work. And when you set up the plan to reach your goal, then it should be possible to finish the course. Now, finishing a course doesn't really necessarily mean you reach a level, uh, which is the same when I watched your YouTube video about Norse language. It was great, but like I watched it, I wrote 0 notes, and I remembered half of it. So by it's okay to do the videos over again if it's hard. Like for example, the pronouns, no, for sorry, the genitive, like to know the different varieties. It's hard. So once you start the first month, you get used to this system. Then the second month, you maybe in 4 months you complete 10 hours if you're fast, and then that's finished, and then you can continue to the next level, see if that works. If it doesn't, then you just go and repeat what you have in the course, basically, because it all covers the specific level. So you should, in theory, have everything you need. Of course, you don't practice speaking as much as you do in a live session, which is a small minus. But this is something you could do within the community if you want. You can set up, schedule a call with ours if you want. So it's possible.
So are the students able to set up live calls with each other? Can they set up a live call with you for conversation?
I mean, it's possible with other students. For me, I normally have a maybe once a month, or maybe a little bit less. I show up with other students to interact. They might be shy, which is a small issue, but you know, if you try, I'm sure people will join with you. Yeah.
Yeah, when I've taught at different universities, we've often had these conversation tables where you bring students together who are all studying one language and you just try to get them to talk while they're drinking coffee or something. And I found always one of the biggest challenges was trying to get people to talk about something other than learning the language, right? People sit down, they say, "Hi, my name is," and they say, "I'm studying Norwegian because," and then like it's hard to get people off of just that subject and just talk about other things. Uh, do you have any tips for language learners about overcoming that boundary?
It is about using what you learned from the previous lessons. So, you learn about, I don't know. Always in my course, I have something about culture, for example, like the Sami people, or about I don't know, the favorite food, or what something that interests everyone, I think. Then you just discuss that topic, and you use what you learned from the lesson, like a specific vocabulary list, and you try to use that. Also the grammar you learned, and you fail, of course. And then if you fail, then you learn from that. But of course, I mean, to change the topic around, it takes some. It is hard, I would say. Even for me, like speaking Spanish or something, I would really find it hard to switch around the topic because others wouldn't take the initiative. It's about encouraging each other. That could be useful.
Yeah. And in fact, even in visiting Norway myself, I was there most recently in June. Um, and I find that it's funny, like getting off of the subject for me is hard, because the first thing that happens if I speak to someone in Norwegian is they're like, "Why do you speak Norwegian?" Right? It's like the question is always it always starts with this why, like what's what's going on here? What's this weird? Like, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, that's not what I'm here to talk about. Like, can we discuss? But yeah, like in a way, it's such a novelty to people that becomes the conversation, no matter what you want the conversation to be. Uh, but I don't know. Have your students reported that like people are just surprised that someone from outside wants to learn Norwegian?
Uh, That's the main problem. They try to speak with us, and then we just switch immediately to English, and it really depends on your accent. Uh, if you have this American accent, it's really hard to have a perfect sentence without hiding your accent. So it is a problem. But if you're really fast to speak, like Polish people and people from Ukraine, they're speaking so fast that like for me, I have hard time to like grasp and to stop them. So I just answer in Norwegian for that reason, which is quite funny.
Hmm. Like they're literally speaking quickly.
Yes,
That's
they're really good with consonants, so they're very used to this way of jeg har mye å gjøre i dag. I have a lot to do today. They're saying the words fast, but if you take too much time with the vowels, jeg har mye å gjøre, like I can hear you're struggling and I want to help you out. And it's so like my friends, they do this all the time. Like my wife she's Japanese. She speaks perfect Norwegian. Not perfect, but like she can speak with my family and everyone. And then like my friends start to switch to English, and I just tell him like speak. She knows Norwegian. Don't do this to her. You know, I always speak Norwegian with her at home, because I like the language. And for her, she has no issues. But immediately people just switch just when they hear something's off.
I feel like from what I've heard, the two things that kind of betray my accent the most are the R, although it's not the American R's because I do an Icelandic R, and it's the sh versus sh.
Sure, sure. Yeah. Yes, if you cannot roll the R like like, and then it's people here. But I mean, you have good Norwegian. I remember you were on NRK on the to do an interview. That was very good. Very cool.
Oh, the thing on NRK, the morning show where the guy said, "Do you want to speak English or Norwegian?" And I said, "Well, whatever you want," and I decided to do it. Um, Hey, Ronbeck has a question here. It says, as a Norwegian, the most common question I get from foreigners is, am I saying this right? How do you approach this question? I honestly have no idea what level saying something right is.
Okay, is this from Randveg? Good, or maybe not?
Yeah, it
In
is.
Okay, yeah, okay. Uh, saying this right. How to approach this question? Uh, so how do you approach this question? So I'm too dull today to answer. Saying something right, how to say it right. Um, okay, yeah. I mean, it really depends. I need an example for me to know. Like if it's specifically a vowel you're struggling with to pronounce the rolling R, um, then you can just try your best to treat the person not like a baby, but treat the person uh it's yourself. You really need to get help to get back on track to say that sentence correctly. Um, and it's a bit hard to explain if I don't have an example, to be honest.
What about that sh versus sh? What if I come to you, it's me, and I say like, I have trouble with the sound, like saying shuppa and not saying shuppa or shuppa. right? Like, am I saying it well enough? I know, jeg vil kjøpe mat.
Jeg skal kjøpe mat. Like this one, I cannot visually show you how to say it. So I would need a chart of a picture, how to use the tongue. Um, I cannot do that in like 1 minute. It needs practice. Like you need to do it for 10, 10 minutes, maybe. Like, yeah, yeah. Then you really just try your best. This is one of the stuff that even Norwegians struggle with, like kids. So they actually stop saying it. So that is something everyone have a hard time with. Uh, um, Another one is E or E, maybe. And you can just tell them, just smile when you say E, like iskräm. Like this, then you're good. That's one way of doing that one.
What about with like, so Olympic says, I mean, everyone has an accent, and I don't know how much accent is the correct amount. So usually I say, yes, I understand what you're saying, but that's not what they want to know.
Okay. Uh, okay. All right. Um, it's as an accent. I don't know how much accent is the correct amount. So usually it's really hard to explain this question, to be honest. Like the way they're saying the sentence, it you can do your best to say it correctly, and then maybe pick up a word that they're struggling more with than the others, and then um, ask them to repeat this word and make a new sentence with same. I feel like that was really bad, bad explanation. I'm sorry about that. You're muted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. I mean, in English too, right? I mean, like I can hear someone's accent, and like we're so used to hearing all these different accents that I think that it's like I have a very high tolerance for it, right? But I guess it's like if I were teaching English, at what point do I say, yeah, you sound good enough, where you're never going to eliminate your accent versus like, okay, we really need to work on this still. So like, is there a level with the SJ versus KJ sounds, right? The sh versus yeah. Is there a level where it's acceptable, but not quite native? Like, do you distinguish between like acceptable but not quite native and like near native?
No, I mean SJ and KJ, it's a really big, small gap there. Like it's really not really a middle way of doing this. It's either one way or the other. You can't really do something in between. We have something called like 20 kroner. Like in Bergen, they say this 20. Um, you can try to play that around, but you will never ever sound native. It will never work. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. Do If you don't learn this when you're 6 years old, it's just never like me. I have a horrible English accent. It's the same stuff. I I will mess that up. Um, but just like the KJ, SJ, I would not really worry about that. I would care more about the short or long vowels. For example, saying jeg ha et tak. There is a tak. This is important because it's two different words. The same in, for example, Finnish. They have this way of having like distinguished two words from each other. And if you mess that up, then I don't even understand what you're talking about. So then if you just pick up these important topics, which I cover in the courses, only important things like KJ, SJ is not really a big deal. Um, then you're really good to go. Then I understand what you're talking about. And if you speak fast, I will not stop you, as I said. Uh, yeah.
So that may be a pretty good tip for someone like me is to try speaking faster because I have tended to stay slower and try to like probably over enunciate, overcorrect myself maybe a little bit.
Yes, and it is okay if you mess up, I don't know, one or two grammatical. You have a couple mistakes. There are many people who have this, and it sounds bad, like it's wrong, but I understand what you're saying. And we all know you're never really going to be speaking like me, and that's fine. And if you do that, then you're so quick then that nobody can stop you. Yeah. So that's smart.
Well, and I find that it's not really the grammar that stops me. It's like, am I putting the right tone on things? Am I remembering words? Right. And tone I find is a very difficult thing to imitate successfully in a native speaker. Do you have any tips or ways? Do you concentrate on this in any lessons?
The tone is not important in Norwegian. That's the thing with Norwegian, like Northern Norwegian, Western Norwegian. We had the same tone. It's high pitched, I believe, and then in the east they have low, like sola. In the Northern Norway, we say sola. Uh, this is very unimportant. Doesn't really matter. You just need to have this way of saying the vowels correctly. Like as I said, short or long vowels. You also need to pronounce, for example, sound, interessant, interessant. Uh, this is also a little bit important, not too much. Um, I would say Norwegian language isn't too hard to pronounce, maybe, except for the short smaller vowels like u, u. This is something I believe Americans will struggle with, like saying these small ones. Uh, so the rolling
Sure.
R.
Oh, I know that that's something that is a struggle. Um, and of course the distinction between long and short, which is often not well taught by people teaching Norwegian. Do you focus on that pretty early?
Yeah, I do that when I have the double consonants. That's the most important thing to notice when it's double. Then you say it fast. When it's one consonant, you say it uh, long. It's long vowel. So yeah, of course, I focus on that in the beginning.
I've found that in U.S. university classes in Norwegian, it's something that people often don't even teach.
Yeah. That I mean, maybe because the person is native, uh, possibly, or it's just something. That's the thing when I teach. I observe students. I see what they struggle with immediately, and I write down the notes. I know, okay, you struggle with this thing right there. Then we need to focus on that. Um, and some teachers don't really do that, and that's just human nature to not notice. Um,
Yeah, I didn't even notice it, right? I mean, I'm a linguist. I like it never even really occurred to me until fairly recently that like there was a distinct difference between talk and talk, right? Like once I noticed it, but it took me a long time to notice it, and no one had ever pointed it out to me. Um, and here you and Rodbeck both say it's very important.
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, Ranveig also agrees to that. I also have some other things that are a little bit tricky to do, which is also a little bit interesting, is that in Norse you have till sengs, till salgs, till fjells, which is the same. If you learn from your channel, you have the same grammar as in Norwegian or Norse, um, which is an exception because we don't really have this till sangs. We don't have this s in the end for nouns. But there are many exceptions in Norwegian, like o. You say ost. This is O, and then when you say orden or over, it's O, but you say å, you say ost, å. Then people say, kan jeg kjøpe ost? Can I buy the cheese? Then I don't, what is ost? You know, then people read
Right.
it's wrong.
Right. But that is a little bit hard to teach. Um, I mean, it's hard to teach in English too, right? Where it's like, why do these words that are spelled the same pronounce different?
Yeah, exactly. And there is no real reason for O. That is the main problem with Norwegian. We have these genders that have no, like the ending wouldn't really matter, as in, for example, Spanish, it matters. Like casa is as feminine. Yeah, casa, mi casa, su casa, tu casa. In Norwegian, we don't have any way of telling if it's masculine or neutral, which is a problem. I always tell people, I'm sorry, this is really, I can't really um, design your brain to know if that word is one thing or the other. So
It's I have a slightly unfair advantage because I've studied Old Norse for so long, and the genders are still typically the same.
yeah, so that is one issue with Norwegian. Um, Apart from that, Norwegian grammar is easy. I would say it's an SVO language. I looked it up, and it's top three easiest languages in Europe. So people that are scared, it's not hard. Uh, I would say Dutch and Norwegian are one of the two easy languages, um, compared to German, which is a little bit hard.
Yeah, Dutch. It's a little harder because the plurals are going to be harder, and some of the pronunciation stuff I feel like is harder.
Yeah, I I agree. I feel like it's a little bit hard to do that. Um, is another question from about Danish, from Deborah.
Yeah, she says I've been studying Danish on and off. Would a switch to Norwegian be like completely starting over? As I know there's some crossover.
Yeah. So Norwegian writing system is the same as Danish. So if you read, I don't know, the bottle of Coca-Cola, it will be the same description in Danish and Norwegian. But speaking is really different. So switching over to Norwegian, that's the thing. I had one student in person that learned Danish. And my job, he told me, your job is to switch, make me speak Norwegian. It never worked. It never. We had like 50 lessons together. We came nowhere. He he only changed a couple words that were Danish, but changed it to Norwegian. Um, you could try to change a couple words and try to, because in Danish they remove the consonants, like they just have this bo boo bo, like 10 ways of saying this bo boo, um which is book or live, I believe. So
Right.
yeah,
Whereas in Norwegian, that's distinctly boo versus book. And yeah,
yeah,
you're actually saying that K. Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
Well, and I mean, it goes the same way, right? I mean, when I try to speak Swedish, I mean, I read Swedish all the time, right? But like, I cannot speak Swedish without basically like falling back into Norwegian, right? It's like, it's so close that it's just like at some point I'm going to trip, right? There's going to be some word that's going to be the same, and all of a sudden I'm speaking Norwegian again. Um, so I think that to a certain extent, if you've started to establish yourself on one track of one of the three, like you almost have to stay on it.
yeah. Just keep the Danish pronunciation, keep that, and then you learn the Norwegian words that would be an issue. For example, buske, which means kanskje or maybe. Like I would probably don't know what muske mean, and then we wouldn't really have a conversation. Like I wouldn't really understand. But it doesn't take too much time to know the important changes in Swedish and Norwegian and Danish. I also make some polls sometimes about some funny differences. Like rolig in Swedish is
Oh yeah.
cool in Norwegian. Um, quite different, which is it means calm actually, in Norwegian.
Right. That I don't know if you know, heard me tell the story. I was on a bus in LA once, and I sat next to a Danish guy. I could tell he was Danish because he was reading something in Danish. And we got to talking, and I was speaking Norwegian, but my basis is like Ninor. He was like, "Oh, can you kind of come my way a little bit?" Because he was having sort of a hard time understanding that, and so I started just speaking my most like Henrik Ibsen like bookmål, and he told me that it was the most beautiful Danish he'd ever heard, and I thought that's pretty
Wow.
great, like I just felt like I was giving a high five to the ghost of Ivar Olsen. Um, but
Uh, yeah, that is funny. Uh, Henrik Ibsen. It is isn't it riksmål? I
oh, that
believe,
is
yeah.
Riksmål. Yeah.
Yeah. For yeah, riksmål is really posh Norwegian. Like it's more about the big writers, Kielland, and also we have Hamsun, who is then we have Henrik Ibsen, then we have Norwegian. In Norway, the thing we really like to have dialects, so the riksmål it disappeared. When you, like in your case, you spoke to this Danish person, you have to try to mix it around to see if he will understand. But we have really awkward situations with journalists that try to speak Norwegian to Danish football players.
Hmm.
Then they just speak in English
Hmm.
uh, back to us because they are too lazy to even try to understand Norwegian, um, which is a pity.
It's a shame. Yeah.
Yeah. So you might be unlucky when you meet a person, but normally, if you try your best to speak, you should, in theory, be able to speak to Swedish, Danish, and Norwegians in if you're good enough, like B1 level, then you should be okay. So
Yeah, I have decent luck with it. I mean, I feel like Norwegians will usually talk to me in Norwegian, and I feel like Swedes and Danes slightly less often, but usually will tolerate my Norwegian. Uh, and tolerate might be the word.
yeah.
I mean, you know something about tolerating my Norwegian. Uh,
Yeah, I haven't we haven't been having a dialogue in Norwegian yet, but we did then
well, you know something about it over email anyway. Uh,
yes.
because I'm used to reading and writing it, so like I'll almost always use it in writing, but I'm slightly more self-conscious, probably like a lot of people who basically learn from books. I'm slightly more self-conscious speaking. And you can probably read my self-consciousness out of me, probably even more in Icelandic than in Norwegian, where it's like, okay, look, I know that it sounds like I'm reading a book in a foreign accent, but you know,
Yeah, uh, I guess so.
well, I really appreciate you taking the time with us and talking about this. And we have a special link that people can go to check out your class that I shared on Patreon. Um, and I will put that in the chat for anybody who might be curious about that. And I'll share that on the YouTube description and comments too for people who would like to go check out your Norwegian courses.
Yeah. Uh,
So, like I said, thank you so very much. And congratulations. I know you have big things going on in your life right now. So, won't take up too much more of your time unless anybody has any last minute questions or if there's anything you'd like to say in conclusion.
Not really. I'm just really happy to be here, and I'm also a little bit nervous to come here because you're really big on. You're really an idol for me. You're really clever with language and very knowledge, very you have a lot of knowledge. So I'm very happy to be here, and to be able to speak with you in front of you guys and to share Norwegian language with as many people I can. And just, I hope this was useful, even though I wobble about in my own accent.
Oh, it's great. And I enjoy having a conversation with someone who's doing something I really care about and doing it in a good way. Right. I mean, you are successfully teaching a language that I care about having taught. Right. And so I think it's great to get the word out about that. And thank you very much for the kind words. It's more than I deserve. Matt, by the way, says it's a great course. So he's already
Oh yeah, wow, yeah. Very happy to say so, Matt. I'm sure you're really good studying. So I
and and is there a way that I can like pop in on some of the conversations that people have to see what like can I spy on your students' conversations on Telegram or something?
yeah, I'm sure we can make it work.
It might be kind of fun to pop in and just, you know, chat in Norwegian with people now and then.
Yeah, sure,
Uh,
that'll be fun. They'll be very happy you're there, I think.
and on my Discord, I'll send you the link to my Discord because there is a little Norwegian sub forum where both native language Norwegians and people learning Norwegian talk some. It's not super active right now, but you might enjoy popping in on that now and then.
Okay, yeah, that'll be fun. That's fun. It's a lot of Norwegian words I can use to speak Norse, so
Yeah, there's good overlap. As we as we didn't quite document on ecolinguist maybe, but oh man, that's funny to know. I had not even thought about that.
yeah, don't watch it. It's really embarrassing. So
We should
I
redo
really
it.
want to redo it, but I can't.
No, we should redo it just like you and me and like I'll, we can find another Icelander, Swede and Dane to like do a second take on it.
Okay. Yeah, we could try. We'll see. Yeah.
All right. Tor, thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
for now,
And
to
you
you and
too.
thank you. Thank you very much. And to you and everybody watching, all the best from beautiful Colorado.